Welcome back. This is part 4 in our little series looking at John 14, going home. We're thinking about what it means to live in the face of danger and tragedy, living with the shadow of the coronavirus pandemic upon us. How do we live? How do we live with hope? How do we face death? How do we keep living for Christ with the uncertainty around us? How do we respond when people we love and care about die as a result of this virus? We've been looking at John 14, and John 14 says that we are not to worry or to be afraid. We are to trust in God, and we trust also in Christ. Jesus tells us that in his mansion are many houses. He wouldn't have told us that he was going to prepare a place for us if he wasn't, and if that wasn't true. And more than that, if Jesus has gone to prepare a place for us, then he will return and take us home. Term finished at university all those years ago for me when Dad arrived. Dad would travel down through the Strines and then into North Sheffield, ready for us to pack up the car so that I could go home to Bradford. My university accommodation was always temporary. We had to move out completely at the end of term. None of this sense that you would have today of moving to the university permanently and making that your home. Home was always Bradford. Home was always Larch Hill, where our house was. I knew I was going home because Dad was coming for me, and I knew that the time to go home was when he arrived. Some of you have been there earlier than expected this year. You were expecting, waiting for the summer, or at least temporarily for the Easter break to go home. And yet 2 weeks ago, parents turned up early to pick you up, to take you home. It was the sign that you needed to be with them, that the safest place, the best place to be, was back in the family home, under their care for this time. Jesus gives us the promise that he will return for us, that he will take us home. There's 2 stages to that. There is the end stage, that Jesus is going to come back physically as he went to heaven, that he will appear, and that he will raise the dead. And those of us that are alive at the time with the dead that are in Christ, we will be gathered to be with him in his new creation. In the meantime, we know that individual death now means that the believer is absent from the body, but present at home with Christ. What that means is that death comes when he calls. It will be his timing, and his timing will be perfect. Now, sometimes we struggle with death. We struggle because actually there are things that we are looking forward to, things that we are enjoying. If I die now, I won't get to see Bradford City get promotion back to the Premier League in 4 or 5 years' time. It's probably not going to happen anyway. Might not live to see children or grandchildren. I may not live to fulfill that ambition. On a bonus, I might not have to sit and watch those never-ending, depressing BBC serial dramas that, instead of finishing each series with a positive message of hope, finish with more despair and suck you in for the next one. That one would be a good thing, wouldn't it? But if we go when Christ calls, then his timing will be perfect. That helps us with grief. From a human perspective, a death, unexpected, untimely, is tragic. They are taken, we say, before their time. From our perspective, even the loss of a loved one in their 80s and their 90s, well over the 60 years and 10 that the Bible talks about, is still hard and painful and sad and sometimes surprising, because we've got used to somebody being around. We think it will be forever. The timing can feel all wrong for us. And so we fight against death. There are two dangers, aren't there? The danger that we try to be God, and we have a society that will very easily step in very quickly, very readily, to say this person's life must end now. They're no longer valuable. It's no longer worth living, so we provide euthanasia. Even some of the conversations about possible medical rationing in that sense, aren't they? That we can value lives based on age and health. No, we have no right to do that. But the opposite extreme is that I can cling to life desperately, worrying about the end, seeking further treatment, seeking ways to delay it, running away from something I'm afraid of. But it is Jesus that comes and calls me. And in his arms and in his presence is the best place to be, the safest place to be. So we do not need to fear death. We mourn when we lose someone because they are lost from our presence, but not without hope. We have that perspective as believers, that the person is genuinely in a better place, not out of some pious, vague wording. You know, we hear that said, oh, they're in a better place now. If they don't belong to Jesus, no, they're not. But we say that in the sure and certain hope of the resurrection. Not only that, but if it is Christ who decides when to call us, when to come for us, if his timing is perfect, then if I am still here, as long as I am still here, whether I'm in my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, my 70s, 80s or 90s, or even into my hundreds, then I'm here because that is Christ's purpose. It means that there is never that sense that my life is wasted or useless. He wants me here. He wants me here because he still has work to do in my life, to grow me into his likeness, to teach me, to feed me, to encourage me. I'm here because he still has work for me to do, to speak for him, to live for him, by my life's example, by the words that I use, to draw other people to him, to see people come to faith in him, to see believers built up and growing in him, to encourage those that are serving him in different ways, to spur one another on to holiness. There is a purpose to being here. Today, if you're sad because you're missing a loved one, you're grieving for them, and you are thinking, well, I don't know if life is worth living now. I wish I could go home too. I want to encourage you. He will come and call you in his time, and that will be the right time. And in the meantime, he has work for you to do. Don't let anybody say you are redundant as a believer. Don't let anybody say you are not needed anymore. That's Christ's decision, not theirs. For those of us that are young and think that there is plenty of time, I would say don't waste your life. Christ will come and call. It will be his time. Be ready for it. Because there isn't a date and a time either on the day when he will call you home through death or the time when he will return. We need to be ready. We do not know the hour. And know this, that whatever things we think we are going to lose out on and the enjoyment that we will lose if he returns now or if he calls us home now, know this, that the life we look forward to when we are home with him is going to be more solid, more real, more joyful, more wonderful. The tastes will be sweeter. The music will be more beautiful. The sights and sounds will be more amazing. The fellowship will be more delightful. Are you ready? Are you ready to serve him here and to trust him here for as long as he wants you here? Are you ready to be called home when it is his time? Thank you.